Now on BBC Two, a world fusion of Björk, Kravitz and Estefan, with a sprinkling of Jools, Holland.
I'm sorry, sir, but you can't park here. It's a restricted area.
Coffee, Mr. Holland.
Sorry, I haven't got the time. I have to take it later. Biggest con out. You'd like to take...
Welcome to later, ladies and gentlemen. It never ceases to amaze me that all these people, they've never met one another, and in about 5 minutes before we go on, we try and work something out. And that's the marvel of music, isn't it? If only the world could be like that all the time. Or perhaps not, I don't know. Anyway, who are this week's marvellous guests, and what is this week's theme? For instance, I used to be in a group called Squeeze, but I went solo, ladies and gentlemen. And that's what all the guests in the studio today partly have in common. They weren't in the group Squeeze, but they were solo at one time. So let's meet the guests. Tim Finn used to be in a crowded house. Now he's solo and has with him the legendary Richard Thompson. Performing together tonight, Tim Finn and Richard Thompson, ladies and gentlemen. This direction, if you will. She originally comes from Iceland. She used to be in the Sugar Cubes, but now she is solo. She has released an album entitled Debut. Björk, ladies and gentlemen. Over this way, I think. Goodness, it's so busy in this studio. You may have noticed that we get more and more people each week in the studio. Our next guest, grew up in the Cuban music of the 1930s and 40s. She became a huge crossover star with the Miami Sound Machine. She went solo, ladies and gentlemen. Gloria Estefan. And her array of musicians. Marvellous players here. A lot of very different types of bands in the studio tonight, and that's the sort of thing I like. Our next artist is Paul Westberg from Minneapolis. In the 1980s, he had the band The Replacements, but he went, ladies and gentlemen, solo. Correct. He recorded an album, 14 songs, and he'll be performing from it tonight. Paul Westberg. Most of us familiar with the medium of television will be familiar with Horatio Nelson and Napoleon. Yeah, that's right, yeah. Did I get that in? I don't think it's necessary, I think it is perhaps necessary to bring in a small hymn at this point. When did those feet in ancient times? And I bring this hymn in because it is about Glastonbury. And Joseph of Arimathea was supposed to have walked with Christ there. Joseph put his staff into the ground and a tree grew there, and that's why Glastonbury is a marvellous sight. Our next guest has just returned from Glastonbury, although he originates from New York. And he's making another stop on the Universal Love Tour. And he's going to kick our show off, ladies and gentlemen, with the title track of his current album. Ladies and gentlemen, Lenny Kravitz.